All right. Truth always rises like that cream. Okay, let's find out more about that because I am definitely experiencing it personally. How about you? If you've been with us for these 10 episodes, then you probably have seen the significant shifts, certainly in me. I know I feel different. I don't know if I look different, but I definitely am experiencing the shifts that happen when you start to tell the truth and stay as radical about it as possible. I love that word, radical. Um, you know, when you start to understand some of these pieces around natural law, the Hermetic principles, and in our last episode with Will, just a couple days ago, he ended at the just at the tail end. He was talking about the Hermetics, and he proposed something to me that really shifted my understanding, and that is that the seven principles of the hermetic laws and those principles are actually one. They all work together. That was a big moment for me, and I started to research a little bit more, and it comes down to this: truth rises, and it rises from the inside out. I think that that is the key to true leadership. I wrote it in my book, Lead Stronger Longer. It's the first principle, it's the first practice we do, and that is to tell radical truth, to tell the truth, that a leader has to be honest. And there's no gray area for that. The truth is what it is. It is objective. It's not subjective. Truth, the opinions can be subjective for sure, but the truth is the truth. And I think we have all seen how the words that we have been using have been altered. The true definition, the true meaning of a lot of key words have been uh, altered. We've been dumbed down. Speaking of that, I wanted to share really quickly where I started on this journey, and that was with Richard Grove. He was a catalyst for me in homeschooling my boys because I watched an episode that he did interviewing John Taylor Gatto and Dumbing Us Down. When I when I saw that episode, it was so intriguing to me that a principal of a New York school could say what he was saying and that it be something just right out in the open. Oh my goodness, he's actually saying that, and and it resonated with me so much that I started to understand the things that I had been looking for in terms of ideas, in terms of who to follow, who to listen to as I was raising my young sons at the time, that I wasn't able to fully see with my mind logically the truth, and what's true and what's false, but I could feel it in my body. I could feel it in my heart. And I'm one that's very cerebral, very much in my head. That sometimes gets me in a lot of trouble because I can be very logical. But once I started tapping into my heart more and coming into my body and seeing how that aligned, things started to change for me. And I was able to lead a better life. Now, in no way am I saying I'm perfect, and I have a long way to go. But one of the catalysts then from understanding and working with Richard Grover, seeing his episodes and following the work that he does, led me to Mark Passio. And in August of 2024, I started on the journey of listening to Mark Passio's podcasts. I started with number one. I highly recommend, if you're going to, start with number one and then begin to process. Just like with anything, if you're going to eat a big old juicy whatever, you're going to have to chew it, and you're going to have to allow your enzymes to do the work to process that. And if you don't have some good enzymes in your body, some of that might rot, and it might cause some damage inside the body. And then you'll have to figure out how to eliminate it. I just basically said a concept of the trivium method, which again, that's something I learned through Richard Grove and then heard a lot more about it with Mark Passio. That trivium method: input, process, output. You can see that everywhere. It is natural, it is in nature. And somehow we as humans have gotten off and disconnected from nature, our own true nature. And that is what inspired me to reach out to Will. I saw one of his episodes, and in doing so, as you have likely seen with Will over the last 10 episodes, he's one of the most generous, knowledgeable, competent men that I have met. And I am incredibly honored to have had him as my guest and as my guest today. So, on the Lead Stronger Longer finale with Will, now, Lead Stronger Longer will come back. I've got some more great interviews coming up. In fact, I'm interviewing Leslie Powers tomorrow and anyone in the natural law. Or, in fact, I would love to interview Mark Passio, but I want to definitely bring more folks onto the Lead Stronger Longer podcast. But this series specifically with Will it's our finale today, and I have a list of questions. Super excited to bring those to Will because every time I ask a question, he has something that expands my understanding. And so I'm hoping that you will join us on this journey and you will ask questions. Please put your questions in the chat. I'll look for that. I'll stay on top of that, and we'll get going. Will, welcome back, and thank you so much for joining me on these episodes.
It's been a fun series. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And even though this is the finale, it doesn't stop.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I was reflecting on my experiences with you over these last 10 episodes that I know what I've learned, and I've shared a little bit about it, but I'm curious if there's anything that you have learned or that has maybe changed you during these 10 episodes. Care to share?
Yeah. Oh, this is fantastic. I've learned a few things. Well, number one that I was expressing to you earlier in this conversation, it's amazing. Just the power of good conversation shows how far that can resonate out and how it can affect people. I was telling you, Stefana, that I've been receiving incredible amounts of emails and messages from people that have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And we have struck a great balance. You brought great questions and great introspection and feedback and pushback at times. And that across the board is well balanced. It's well healthy. So I've learned that having a good, balanced dialogue is what people want to see. That's that philosophy archetype in people that want to come out. They want to see those good conversations. So many podcasts nowadays, it's kind of cut and dry. It's someone just asks questions and someone answers, and it doesn't have that natural improv or flow to it, where at any moment it could just spiral into a different direction, or and just expand. So that organic feel. And in this age where, there's millions of podcasts and everyone's a content creator, there's that authenticity that needs to be out there and needs to be experienced. And I've just been extremely grateful for you having me on, for us doing these series, and all the feedback that I've been getting from people. And it gave me profound insight on the types of interviews that I want to do in the future. When you do an interview with someone that agrees with you 100%, it's biased, right? There's a bias there. If my point being is consciously choosing the conversations and where it's going to go and who you're going to interact with is very important, because we all have something to say. We have a message, and how can we showcase that in a healthy manner where we can get to the center of the bullseye, get to the truth, to the core of what we're trying to explain. And this is what the philosophical realm is all about, right? For the love of wisdom. And we can do this by interacting.
So good. I love the way you paint pictures. That helps me so much every time you speak about the bullseye, and so now I really, I make that almost my motto that I'm done with the peripheral. I want to go straight to the bullseye, but not from an obsessive way like I was before, like I had to because it's my way of controlling, and I had, that kind of thing. And that's one of the things that I've learned, especially around leadership, because um, leadership for me in the past has been more of a controlling, and the push and pull that we had, and I know I pushed quite a bit on this, of the order followers and that the police and and I'm like, hey, they're people too and it's okay, and you're like, it's, so that is what I'm realizing, even for myself, is that I think I have been that master, or you know what I mean? I've been, even with my own sons, even though I wanted to empower them always, I still was, this is what we're going to do. And this is what you might, and this is how and I feel still that there's a part of that that I need to do, because the trust is missing that someone else can carry out something successfully. And I think that when parents, when business owners, when entrepreneurs lead from that place, it's from a place of fear ultimately. And you cannot control everything and everybody. Three fingers are pointing back at me. You cannot control everything and everybody. But that, even me saying that, brings up fear, brings up anxiety, brings up this energy in me that I'm pushing back. And I want to justify being the master and being the king, queen of my family. And this is how we're going to do it. And if you don't like it, too bad, because I know better. And, that kind of thing is, yes, I'm dramatizing it a bit, but I think it's important, because until we can lead from a place of empowering as opposed to master servant, and really understand this at the nuance level as well as at the full level, uh, we're going to be in the same thing where we're looking for government mommy daddy, the proverbial mommy daddy, to the guru, the next program, the whatever, to tell us what to think, how to feel, what to feel. Those feelings are wrong. And then if they don't fit into that box, numb it out, pill it out, jab it out, whatever. Yeah. So it's really interesting. I love how centered you are, and I'm working hard not to become uh, a copycat, to try to copy what you do. I'm just trying to really be in my own energy, my own skin. And I highly encourage all of us to do that. All my listeners, please, when you tap into your own center, your own, what I call powerhouse, it's your physical powerhouse as well as your mental powerhouse. There's something so profound, and you can find your true dreams. And I think that that's how we're going to change the world. I think that that's how we're going to influence the world and improve. Okay, so you talked about how these conversations can help, and you said how it resonates, and conversations that are balanced. I love that. Now, when someone is, we'll say, awakening. What's a better word? You know how Marx talks about the unbegun. In the dark occults will say they're the unbegun or the unawakened or something. Well, let's say, okay, so now someone's beginning and they are awakening, but they're afraid. And maybe they're afraid of losing a community, their comfort, right? We've talked a little bit about this, but specifically, what would you say to them right now?
Well, first, it's good to understand primarily where that comes from. That comes from our childhood, where either parents were too passive or too aggressive in their their parenting style when it came to problems or obstacles, meaning, if it's too hard, just quit, or pushing your child too much in a direction that they aren't willing and don't want to go. Excuse me. So when we come across a problem within our life, or something like just what is going on in the world, and that fear kicks in. First of all, fear exists, right? This is an element of the unknown, and we are all going to experience that our whole life, even on our deathbed, right? So that acknowledging that, the question is responding and not reacting to the fear. And that's what I mean by primarily it stems from our childhood. So when we reach that obstacle, the fight or flight or the freeze kicks in, and people shut down, or they recluse into their shell, or go many different directions. For me and how I was raised, thanks to my father, a problem, an unknown solution and a problem was something that absolutely could be conquered with logic, reason, and care. It was almost a challenge in a way. Even when I was going through my drug addiction, right, in my darkest times, sure, it was brutal, it was scary, it was fearful. I would wake up, each morning, and I didn't know if that was the day I was going to die, that type of feeling. But yet it was still a challenge to kick it into gear, to go through that process of self-discovery, to understand that big quest, that big journey, the why. Why am I here? How did I get here? Why am I doing what I do, etc.? And we can apply that to the world. Why is humanity in the condition that we are in? How did we get here? How is it being maintained? And how can we get out? Right? So that needs to, and there's a level of almost emotional inventory when you reach an obstacle, or you take in information like the truth of what is going on in the world, and the fear is kicking in. Stop, drop, and think. Take the inventory of how you feel. If you're journaling, this is great. Write this down so you can reflect upon that. But setting those emotions aside and letting the reason and the logic come in. And that's where the trivium shines, right then and there. You have to kind of separate the emotions, not get rid of them, acknowledge them right up front, set them aside, and put that logic and reason into use.
Okay, you said a whole lot there.
Okay.
And you definitely triggered some stuff because you went right for the jugular with the parenting. So I have a few questions.
Sure.
So first of all, your father actually had this understanding of logic, reason, and care. How did he understand it? How did he come about it? What's that about? And tell me more.
Yes. My dad wouldn't actually say, son, use logic, reason, and care.
Okay.
He wouldn't say that. But my dad is a problem solver. He's always been a problem solver. He always said, dads can fix anything. That was his coin quote that he always would say. You know what that does to a child? I looked up to my father like, whoa, my dad can really find a solution to any problem. And, so he was very much about logic and reason and solving a problem. And he was very much centered in stop, drop, and think. That was another phrase that he said. That means recognize your emotions, but set them aside. Stop, drop your emotions, and think. Use logic and reason. That's what he implied by that. And these are the type of phrases, but also actions and behaviors that I saw within him, but he instilled within my childhood as well. And, this is a great gift that a parent can give their child. It's ultimately what we are giving our children, right? So we kind of hold on to, my child's going to have this profound understanding of the universe or of themselves. No, they got to go through that whole process of self-discovery as well. They got to fail a whole bunch and learn from their mistakes. But it's the tool sets that we are able to embody and raise our children within They have those tool sets, they understand them, and they can utilize them. So when they hit that fear, they know how to respond instead of react, or how to solve a problem. So
Oh,
that's what I
whew,
mean by that.
so good. Let's go back to, I get the stop, come into present time, drop,
Correct.
but drop the emotions. See, now in my world, for me, thinking got me into trouble because I was constantly thinking, constantly in my head. And I want to understand the drop the emotions. You feel them, or you didn't say feel them, you said acknowledge them. Tell me how that's different than feeling them, and what does that actually look like? And then tell me how we align, because you didn't say anything about aligning your emotions and your thoughts and your actions. You just said tool set to embody thinking, which is really important. You said embody. I love that, and I really want to know how. There's a few questions in here, and I know you get this. So I'll just continue with this, and then you'll take it over.
Mhm.
Okay, intellectually, because you're really talking about think and reason. So I think intellectually, okay? But intellectually, there is a difference between intellectually, because I can be really intellectual, but not embody truth. I can be really intellectual about natural law, but totally not embody it. I think that that's how I was 7 or 8 months ago, right? Because I was like so intellectualizing, I'm going to learn this, but I was not embodying it. And there's varying degrees. I get that. So I love this. Okay, tool set, but it's to embody versus to be intellectualizing. And then uh, the yeah. So that around there, especially these emotions, because I have, when I got back into connecting with my emotions and not burying them, I used them more as a compass, more as an opportunity to really understand what I was feeling and not to suppress them anymore, because that's what was getting me in trouble. Meaning, it was causing a lot of inner pain and suffering. And I read a book called Letting Go. I did a few of David Hawkins' books. Power versus Force, Letting Go. Highly recommend those. And then I did a Michael
Truth and
Singer.
falsehood.
Yes,
He's got some
exactly.
great works. Yeah.
Very, very good works. And so it was the first time I started actually, wait a minute, I don't have to run from it. I don't have to avoid it. I don't have to fight it. I don't have to bury it. I can just feel it. Holy crap. And that was terrifying. But once I started, it was a lot faster. It's like, let's just rip the freaking Band-Aid off already. Come on, let's just feel this. Yes, it's painful. Like even right now, even when you were saying about you brought it starts in your childhood. Like, no, I don't want that. That kind of thing. It's like, okay. And it went straight to the feeling of, I went into grief as I'm listening to you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to
Mm.
burst into tears. Please, I don't want to do that. Da, da, da. Right. All of that. Because then my head and my heart are like, so let me come back to that. The stop, drop the emotions, you said, and then you said think and reason. And then I want to understand the intellectual versus embodying.
Gotcha.
Okay.
The stop, drop, and think. Keep in mind that's from the aspect of, you know, there's an obstacle right in front of you. So the drop is more about drop the emotional reaction to what you're facing, right? Because sometimes when we come across information, of course, the heart center is online. So the fear, you feel it. You feel fear. That's the thing about fear, right? You can feel it. It's an energy. It's an emotion that is generated within you, and it is it's the emotion of the unknown, right? There's a lack of knowledge there. So that's what it means by drop. Stop is obviously, like you said, be present. Okay, you're in the here and now. Stop the emotional reaction, the fear response that we all can have when we're coming across an obstacle. That could be someone's breaking into your house, right? And that fear response you could feel. Sometimes people run, they hide under the bed, right? You can pause that fear response, that emotion, those emotions, you could stop that in its tracks. So then you can think and, whether that's, go to your gun safe, pull that out, or grab a bat, or whatever it may be, or any type of obstacle in life. So that's what the stop means. And of course, you stop that emotional reaction, right? That visceral feeling by obviously acknowledging it. So you recognize that you are having that right then and there. Stop it, set it aside. So then you can think. When we are in alignment, right? Thoughts, emotions, and actions, this is that is towards the solution, right? You can separate intelligence, right? When you're doing the trivium process, it is heavily skewed in logic and reason. Of course, intuition is involved as well, right? To feel certain aspects of information or a situation. That feeling itself, that intuitive capacity, that is a plethora of information that can be used. But ultimately using that logic and reason to filter through and analyze the information, the raw data, when you come to an accurate perception or the cause to apply the solution, that solution needs to be based in unity consciousness, in alignment, thoughts, emotions, and actions. Meaning the thoughts, you have done the logic and reason in the trivium method to come to understand the problem and understand the solution. You align your emotions with that as well, your moral compass, and then you act on that. So that's what I mean in those aspects. I can't remember the second part that you said.
Yeah, that's good. And you
Okay.
addressed the intelligence versus embody. One of the things that, as you were talking about that, is as I'm listening to you, this is something that every child needs to be equipped with. This ability, what you were talking about. So you have your feelings, your intuition, and to understand and to know what that is, and to analyze the raw data. Analyze the raw data. Analyze the raw data. I don't think anyone's analyzing any raw data right now. We don't even analyze the data that comes to us. We're basically just siphoning in so much BS. So that's missing. And I mean, right there, that's it's like,
Well,
stop, analyze the raw data. And then the solutions, and you talked about unity consciousness. I mean, that right there, that should be like a whole masterclass for any child, anyone. And it makes me think like, okay, how do we help the children, whatever age they are, deprogram themselves from what they didn't get with that imbalance of from early on, where there was an imbalance of constant fear and you know what I mean? So
sure.
exactly what you just described previously when you were talking about the it came from your parenting, and it came from the imbalances, and when they didn't, that was like, oh, yeah, how do we deprogram from that? Especially, because you mentioned, and who is it? Bruce Lipton, I think, talks about the first 7 years you're being programmed. That's your program that's running. It's your hard drive. It's like, okay, how do we deprogram
Formatting.
from that? It's the formatting. How do we deprogram from that?
Yeah. Big question for sure. And it doesn't just stem from childhood. This is what the indoctrination system is there for, right? This is what college is there for as well. I mean, it's right there. You can have someone that had a very good childhood or an upbringing with moral values, then they go into college or university and they come out a completely different person. So the understanding that the nature of a human being is that we are programmable, little c creators, right? That is something important to know. Primarily, it stems from our childhood. Like you said, the first 7 years, this is the formatting, laying down the operational, the fundamental information on how we function, right? For sure. But that also indoctrination, it 12 years plus, then college, that's all that there is to reprogram, indoctrinate, to speak into, to say what something is. That's what that whole category, that whole industry is all about. Programming and conditioning. So it's the complete opposite of education, right? Education is to lead one out of ignorance versus to speak something in, to speak a doctrine or information into something. So how we deprogram that, and when actually first something that came up when you were talking is, what does it look like with parent and a child to go through the raw data? Like when I say that, like, do people think that I mean, okay, little Johnny, let's sit down and, we're writing out columns and graphs and all kinds of stuff like that for a young child? No. Sure, you could write stuff down, but it's primarily through questions that a child can experience exploring the raw data, right? So it can be something as simple as, I don't know, a beaver den or something, and a child is asking, how does a beaver make a den? Well, the parent is in a unique situation to facilitate, to lead that experience, and we can do that by asking our children questions that they haven't thought of, and those questions will generate data, whether they have an answer or not. Right? This is kind of why the apothetic inquiry or method is so powerful, looking at what it is not to understand what it is. So, and that process can be across the board. And little kids like to talk. They like questions. So it's perfect. Way better than getting very intellectual or analytical, writing stuff down. Of course, if your child's a little older and they can read, then you can facilitate a more advanced segment of that of, let's go do some research. Let's find those answers. There's multiple ways, creative ways to extract raw data from any given situation or experience. So I kind of wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, and you're talking about it specifically as it relates to children and youth.
Yes.
It relates to anyone.
Adults as well.
Yes, exactly, but we've forgotten how to, or it's been buried to find those answers. We don't find those answers anymore. We immediately go off to, because of the programming, the formatting that go to urgent care because you have or your toe is hurting. It's like, wait a minute. Why don't you ask some questions about that? Maybe your shoes are too tight. Like, these are literal examples. from yeah. So that's really interesting. Not from me, from my brother-in-law happens to be a doctor. and the conversations that I overhear are just ludicrous.
Yeah.
That's because adults, they're not adults, they're children still. 50-year-old, 60-year-old, doesn't matter, 20-year-old children don't find the answers. And our answers are here. It's not that we can't have mentors. I'm getting so many understandings, but the answers are within ourselves, and that's okay. So good. Again, so good. Did you have something else you wanted to finish? Or should I go on?
I think that's what I wanted to say, unless it slipped my mind. I left something out to address what you were saying, but we can keep it going.
It's specifically around this deprogramming of the false beliefs, right? It's the false beliefs, but also, this has been my pitfall, is deprogramming the false beliefs, but then falling into another system or another, I don't want to say cult, but another indoctrination system. because of that cycle, maybe that pattern, I'm a lot less than I was before, but I found myself when I was coming out of a very, very indoctrinated, very heavily dogmatic group that I invested everything in, right? Financially, my time, my energy, my whole thinking, everyone that I looked at was through that lens, and I judged them through that lens and with their nomenclature, with their verbiage, and never found my own answers. It was always through that lens, and it was always from a lie, from because that whole fundamental it wasn't true for me. It was that I took it on because I thought that was what I should do. And so I would really love to understand how someone can deprogram from that with and those false beliefs without going into a new system or a new ideology.
Well, this is the power of, kind of art and inspiration. I mean, if you would have asked me, 20 years ago about, some philosophical topics, natural law, anything like that, it was so outside of my worldview. I have never even considered it. See, that's the problem, is that I never even questioned myself or questioned reality or nature to that extent. So how do we bring someone, how do we influence someone to look again, to have that self-respect, to ask, to spark and ask those big, deep questions? And we do that through art, right? We're creating art right now. Art is just creative expression that has an influence to some dynamic, right? So the more people activate in objective morality, natural law, and they come out and they have that creative expression on these topics, then there is a higher probability someone is going to come across a podcast, a book, a post, anything like that, that will make them stop and think, right? So there's really two methods. It can be secondhand like that, where they come across some information and they can feel it. It activates the heart or it activates the mind, and they start asking themselves some big questions, and, it initiates that pathway. Or they go through some type of suffering like I did with my drug addiction, where I literally was forced to look into the mirror and ask myself about my own psychology. That's what initiated my path. So if we can't ultimately, we want to do it with secondhand. We want to inspire people. We want to communicate this type of information and have people initiate it on their own, so we don't have to suffer, anymore. I mean, sure, there's tons of suffering right now, but that's the thing about suffering, right? It is a choice, and it is also endless, meaning there's no limits to suffering. So sure, I've had people talk about even the natural law Hermetic principle of rhythm, and they would say, well, if we are enslaved now, at some point we're going to come out of it and be unslaved, right? Because there is a rhythm, nature is cyclical. There are cycles. And although, yes, that can happen and that could be correct, if you look at it as a waveform, right? And the arch is, freedom. And the dip is slavery. It is endless on how long that arc or that dip, the trough, can extend before it starts to tilt back up into the arch towards freedom. So that's what frequency is. Frequency is how many times, what is the frequency, the motion, the speed of that wave function. So when we think about future generations, it's like it can go on for thousands of generations like it has in the past. And that's where obviously the ethical and the moral question comes in, is your responsibility, my responsibility, our responsibility to do something.
Okay, so I'll leave the Hermetics for a moment, but
Sure.
this waveform that you talked about, and then you'll say freedom, and maybe you were just giving an example, but I'm going to push here.
Okay.
Freedom's at the top, and then the total control at the bottom, the trough that you were talking about. Okay,
Hmm.
and you said it's endless. The suffering is endless, and that's uh, that is it. So if the suffering is endless, but wait a minute, if so that's in the game. Let's go back to your game analogy. In the game we're playing, we're in the trough. Yeah?
Correct. Yes.
So someone put us in the trough. We contributed to putting ourselves in the trough. We're in the trough. Those of us that are doing this art, trying to communicate and trying to awaken folks to be moral and to objective morality, are trying to shorten the experience in the trough of the suffering. And yet still there is something outside of that, the Hermetic principles, that shows that it's a frequency, that it's a wave, that it's cyclical. Ah, what? That means we're totally the effect. Bullshit.
Well,
I don't
we
like it.
well, I totally understand what you're saying, but we can dictate that wave function through our choice, through our will,
But are we
collectively.
in the collective wave function or are we in our own wave function? We're
Well,
in the
we're both apply, right? Yeah, the law of correspondence as well. So as I am an individual, but I'm also interconnected to the whole.
so we're in the trough as a collective,
Correct.
but I don't necessarily need to be in the trough. Like I'm protesting right now being in the trough, just so you know. I am clawing my way out of this freaking trough, and I'll take people with me if I can get them out of there. But you know what I mean? It's like, why am I protesting? I'm protesting it. I don't like that. I don't like that there's some freaking rhythm that I have no control over. The
But
only
that's the
control I
thing.
have is
We
the
we
decision.
do have control over it. That's the thing. We do. So,
By our choices,
correct.
by what I'm doing right now, by what
Correct.
you're doing right now, but what we're doing right now, all of us here in these moments, we're either digging the trough deeper or we're climbing our way out.
That's right. Yep. For the sum of our choices, 100%. We're adding to the pot of slavery and suffering, or we're adding to the pot of freedom and liberation. So
Okay.
keep in mind, I am not a slave, but I am enslaved, meaning the condition of humanity. We are all in that, right? But my individual essence, my mind, I am not a slave, and my heart.
So I think we did cover a little bit, but I still don't understand it. Did we choose? This is then that karma, and is karma? Where does that fit in with the Hermetics? That all of a sudden, here I am on this planet Earth. Here I am sitting in this time and in this space with Will because of some karmic thing that I did, and here I am, and I want to understand that. And at what point do I get to fully know that, or is that? I mean, I'm going to ask the questions and going back to find the answers. I want to find those answers. Can I have those answers? Do I still have to go through and do more homework and I have to do more? Right?
Okay. So what's your actual question? Because you said, do you need some clarification on karma itself?
Yeah, maybe I do.
You know
Maybe,
what karma is. Karma is natural law.
yeah. It's
Yes.
the choice. And so I'm trying to understand because I'm here in this moment, but then I'm also seeing the big like oh my god, everything,
Yes.
and then I'm back in this moment, right?
Sure.
And so I'm
Hmm.
trying to fully. It's like, phew, wait a minute.
The
Um,
paradox of being human. Of course, we have our individuality and we are also interconnected to the whole itself. Just like we can come to know the universe, we can come to know ourselves, our own psychology,
right,
right?
right,
So
right.
both apply.
It's a great statement. It's a great quote. I remember that one. Passio would say it a lot. I love
Absolutely.
it.
The
And
actions
yet,
that I take
and yet,
within my own life have an effect to the environment, to the whole, to the collective, the aggregate.
See, this is where something in me is so extreme. I guess this is the polarity part in me. Now this polarity is going like, oh, I need to get rid of everything and only do this one thing. It's like that's that polarity part of me. It's like no more of anything else, and I'm only going to focus on this one thing. Right? It's like that's me being the effect of the principles instead of being calm and causative, right? I don't, I'm not, am I asking for permission? Probably. Okay. So this is so intriguing. So intriguing. And clearly I need to find more answers. And I do, I do get more answers from you. You're so smart. Well, holy
So
crap. Go ahead.
going back to like kind of the original about with the wave function, because that kind of sparked
Yeah.
your path about when I was saying that it is endless. It's
Yeah.
it can be endless, right? Because we can, if you look at the wave function, it's still yet to be determined on the incline, and then where it finally stabilizes. It's going to go will it go sideways, or will it still decline into deeper enslavement, right? That potentiality is endless. It can go as deep as we take it. That's the question that is up there.
Okay. And of course, instantly I'm like, but it's not fair that so many others are not on board. Why should I be, you know what I mean? There's that petulant child that's like, but I don't, but it seems like the momentum is going that way.
In the
It's,
decline?
yeah.
That's
And,
because it is, unfortunately. And this is where something like
and at a
sacred
rapid
anger
pace.
comes into play, right? I mean, being kind of fuzzy and warm and, hey, Joe, did you know we're enslaved? Like, it's sometimes it's it's, hey, motherfucker, stop doing that. Like, it's that aggressiveness. There is that energy there that needs to be activated. And, I
You've
mean,
offended me.
yeah, yep, exactly. So many people are soft.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay.
And
Okay.
the more people activate and able to express themselves in their art form, that is a variety of expressions, which increases the probability of others taking that information in and coming to that realization.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we need all elements. Some
Oh
people are
yeah.
going to be more intellectual and be more air. Some people are going to be fire, Mark Passio. Some people are going to be cool, calm, and collective, water. Some people are going to be very much somatic and relate to that aspect.
Okay.
I've always tried to promote women that do the one great work, because if more women get involved and express these type of topics, then absolutely men are going to come on board at a faster pace. It's a fact.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I'm here. So
Noted.
what I saw as you were describing that in the art form and you were creating, and it just tied me back to, okay, the dark occultists are so aligned. There's your Disney, there's your filmmakers that are putting out all of that are pushing that enslavement, pushing that, pushing the lies, pushing all of that. And so now I get it, that juxtaposition of folks, we need to activate, even if that's, and activating in alignment of what truth is. Natural law, truth, karma. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. If I missed anything, you'll come back to it. But we were talking before we went live, and you answered a question, and it made me think of a couple things that I really wanted to know about green language / it's not really numerology, but if there's are there words or even um, numbers, I'll just put that out there because I know you have some knowledge there, that we are using on a day-to-day basis that's actually harming us and we're not realizing it?
Words or numbers?
Well, the green language, right?
Sure.
That 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 people use on a day-to-day basis. There's a Passio. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact episode, but he talks about money. And holy smoke, that's like a whole. That's like every time we're passing that, and I actually got more information from my son after he listened to it because he processed it and then was able to come back out and have this discussion about it within his own world. And I think I was just listening to it just to listen to it, and he's like, Mom, do you know what that is, right? You know what you're passing right now. You know what you do, right? Like, but I still need to pay the bills. I need to, oh, but the bills, and then hear the
Sure.
words, listen, bill, and the
Yes.
bull, and I'm like, ah, la, la, la,
Bail.
bail, bile, like this, what? So that's a whole journey, and I know that there's
Hmm.
some great folks we've put those, and we'll continue to put those in the links for folks that really just dive into that. But how, like, can you give us some insight of, I was going to say, is there one word that we're just using over and over? There's mainly because I,
So,
I I want the one thing, but
yeah,
you get
yeah,
the
no,
idea.
I totally get it. And it's very common, even in, the new age circles, to, oh, don't never say good morning. It's always grand rising. And, it's always the, there's the, um, there's the exaggeration and the dramatization of these words. So, sure, words have power, but not as much as people think they do, right? Just because you're going to accept a $1 bill doesn't mean you've enveloped yourself into the frequencies of the dark essence, this kind of shit, right? It's our actions in this reality that actually perform the energy. That's why they're called actions, to act ion, performed energy. So, why do words have influence? That's kind of how we need to look at it. It has an influence. It doesn't have actual power to it, meaning it's going to do something to you or even cause harm. We cause harm through our actions. We protect ourselves through our actions, and we do that obviously by the information that we hold. So, being aware of the system, being aware of what money is and the sigils on the dollar bills, that is one thing. Being scared of it and, oh, don't use it is a completely different thing. And that's exactly where the social engineers want people. They want people to have this emotional reaction to everything, right? So it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't use fiat currency at all, right? And if you do, then you are immoral, you are whatever that may be. So, I mean, I rarely use a bank account. I'm very much into the barter system, and sure, I use cash as much as possible and crypto, etc. But what am I using it for is the bigger question. So the words that we hold, what are you using those words for? What is the essence of your actions? How are you living day to day? What do you stand for and what do you represent are the bigger questions that we can there judge upon, which we should. We should judge people upon their actions, right? So it's such a touchy subject, even in the truth and freedom communities. So many people are like, oh, 666. I got 666 on a receipt, and I had to go in and buy something different or return everything. There's this religious programming that is kind of ensconced into everything. So it doesn't have as much weight as people want to believe it does. What carries the weight is the actions, the manifested energy.
That's key. That's what I wanted to know. Okay,
But
good.
but knowing is important.
Yeah.
Knowing and then doing is what matters.
Mm-hmm. So good. Super good. In fact, my son, his phone number that came in was something, 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 ended in 666. And at first, there was something in me that was like, oh, panic. And he's like, oh, that's cool. So I'm keeping that 666. And I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Sure.
Okay. And then we researched it a little bit. And then in researching it at a deeper level through Passio, it's like 666 is actually the destruction. It's like this piece that's an essence to change. It's a, I don't know, something that I read and I was like, oh my gosh, that's totally kind of your energy, because he will go in and just confront something and it will like, he's strong, he's a strong man, where I'm kind of, oh, that kind of, a little bit. I'm trying to be, when I know something and I'm really confident, I am like strong. But there is a part of me that is a baby, that's just like, and I, I'm like, what, that kind of thing. So that's what I feel like in this whole realm of natural law, and the work that Passio is doing and you're doing, and one great work. I feel like a baby. I feel like and that I have to protect that part of me while I'm growing up. Do you know what I mean? It's
Sure.
really interesting. And I will say that to anyone who is awakening to this and starting on this path. My first 6 weeks of really diving into the worldview. Passio does some on his podcast pieces around worldview, and talks about the dark and the fears, and so much educating in those first 20-25 podcasts. But there is some dark, really rough stuff that if you don't process it, it it's what's the word, it's almost like that sludge that just can cover you, and then you feel like it's like you can't function. So you want to do this daily process. I think that that's one of the reasons I asked Will, and wanted to, it's not, I think I know that's why I made the action to ask for Will to help. And I was just going to do one episode, and then it just evolved into this. And it's like, he's so generous and he's going to give me more, more. And I can't wait to tell you about the community that I'm we've been inspired to create. I've been inspired to create, and with Will, collaborating and contributing in his way. Okay, so respecting time. I have a couple more questions that, let me just ask this one. In our last talk, you brought up the Hermetic I said the Hermetic principles, and I said, is one more important? And he's like, they're all connected. And I was like, okay, but so there's no hierarchy. Number one's not mentalism is not number one. Everything starts in the mind. I used to have that as a mantra. Everything starts in the mind. So what I want to know is, are any of the Hermetic principles more important than the other, especially right now in our time and in the state of the consciousness collectively? I think that's what I want to know. Yeah.
Sure. Yes, there is, you can say, a hierarchy. In our last episode, I was saying that it's a system that operates as one. But yes, everything stems from mind, right? The first principle of mentalism. But the universe is mental, is what they say. And again, the Kybalion itself, this is why it's like a beginner stage for most people. It's a great primer, but these are still human understandings of nature that we all can come to understand and know, right? So that doesn't mean that we're going to know the totality of all. But yes, the universe is mental. The universe also could be looked at as the ether itself, which is the capacity of the sacred feminine, is the, it's the soil where the mind, the seed is planted in. So it is all about our state of mind, and it is also very much about our heart as well. So you can't put one above the other. It needs to be unified, right? So that's why I was saying they are all important and they need to be looked at as one system, right? You can't just focus on polarity and, disregard cause and effect. They all need to be studied as one system and how they function. But yes, the hierarchy does exist. So it is about our state of mind. Sure, we could feel first. You might not have the logic or the reason, but your heart knows, right? This is why, even morality itself, you can feel the harm, you could feel the suffering, even before you hold that information into your mind. So when we go through that list and it's just an explanation, the question is, what does it mean? It's the understanding and how we apply that into our thoughts, emotions, and actions, into our behavior on how we function in this experience we call life. So that's why it is important. And of course, you can go through, this is why syncretism is also a huge category, because we can see these traditions, these cultures separated through, time and location, and they have come to similar understandings, if not exact understandings. This is syncretism. This is why at the root of it, all of it comes down to that process of animism, recognizing the animating principle of all life and spirit. So it doesn't matter if it's, first century or 19th century, you can come to the same understanding because truth is eternal. Truth is objective. Yeah. And we can learn that from nature and ourselves as well.
So you said mental is nature, mental is universe. Wait a minute. So nature thinks not the way the human does. So there's got to be a further definition of what mentalism is versus what I'm thinking, which is thinking. Sure. Right?
Yeah, the quote for mentalism is, the all is mind, the universe is mental. But absolutely nature does has an intelligence, 100%.
Okay, so I probably need to clear up more.
And it might not be in the way that you yourself, with a vessel and an ego, think as well. There is that manifested aspect. If you get into the tradition of the Rosicrucians, primarily Rudolf Steiner and Max Heindel, they very much focus on the cosmology of the aspects and the layers and the gradient of consciousness itself, right? A rock, the mineral kingdom, does not think as how a human being would think, yet there is an intelligence there in the mineral kingdom. Same with the animal, and same with the human and the plant and the celestial. It's all gradients and layers of consciousness. And, we're getting into advanced spirituality and metaphysics.
Okay. Well.
But very much leads into syncretism itself.
Okay. So that door is definitely opened for me, and I want true answers. I want to find those answers without going into another set of dogmatic pieces. Sure. I was very much read a lot of Steiner's work, and in fact loved Waldorf education in the earlier days, 20 years ago when my boys were younger, and was trying to understand that and understand his take on on Christianity and the saints and all of that, and then it's the energy and consciousness. Definitely, I have confusion there, but that goes back to my original. That is, wait a minute, now I'm going back to try and find another system or another ideology to think with instead of just being able to think with it. And
Yes,
I'll leave it at
that's
that.
the problem with people though too, right? They
Yeah.
subscribe to it, and all of a sudden
Yes.
they identify as a Rosicrucian, as a
Mm,
Christian, as
mm,
Christ consciousness, all that kind of
mm.
stuff.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that's why I mean, this is why the power of animism is that there is no identification. It's just understanding and then
Mm,
living.
okay, that's great. Yep. So my eclectic library is just fine. It doesn't identify me. I had a very specific library and no other books
Hmm.
because that was the dogmatic belief that that's the knowledge and this is the source and da 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 and and I mean countless millions and millions of words on that. I don't ever want to go into that again. I talk about enslavement, but so there's a part of me that just like I want to make sure I don't do this pendulum swing on
Hmm.
this, or for anyone else. We all have to take responsibility for our own knowledge. But one of the things, and this probably is ridiculous, but I'm going to bring it up because it's relevant right now for me, um, and I'm curious because we haven't talked about this with regards to animals and being a vegetarian. I was a vegan for 10 years, I nearly killed myself because I was so unhealthy. However, like we've got sugar ants, right? There's loads of sugar ants. And as I was looking at them and seeing so many of them, that I thought, well, we're almost like ants as humans. And someone's trying to exterminate us. There's this giant energy or this force that's trying to exterminate us. And I'm looking at these ants, and it's like, right? And when you start thinking in this way where we're all connected, it's like I don't know. So what's your
Yes.
take on that? I'm
Well,
curious.
absolutely. Just look how we treat the animal kingdom, the plant, the mineral, the earth itself, right? We treat them how we've been taught, right? We've been given these belief systems, this way of life. So as humanity is enslaved, we enslave the lower realms as well, right? The animal, plant, and mineral kingdoms. So there's this correlation, this domino effect. So, of course, as awareness rises and we understand morality and natural law, that will trickle down into the other kingdoms as well. This is why I'm an advocate. For humanity, we must clean up our own house first. We need to make that leap. And that doesn't mean you can't, in your individual life, have a nonviolent diet and practice ethical means. Absolutely do that. You must do that, right? But the focus, we must, as human beings, clean up our own house because we are the stewards of the whole biosphere. So the level of consciousness in the aggregate for humanity affects everything. Affects everything. So that is extremely important to know.
So then, in that, and going back to that, truth is objective. And yet there's a lot of subjective reality, and there's lots of gray areas of what's I mean, certainly in the wellness, the health industry, certainly in this industry or that industry, there's so much subjective views. And then we could go back to the, okay, well, that's all solipsism, right-brained imbalance, where you're not taking where you're like, oh, kumbaya, everybody's perfect, let everybody live their life, even if it means they're harming, versus and then to the opposite end of that. So what's a tangible way for someone to start cleaning their own house? At what level? Right? Because there's mentalism, there's physical, there's spiritual, there's relationships, there's right? At what level, going back to the title of this, truth always rises. Um, and I do want you to dive a little deeper in on this truth, subjective versus objective, and really be firm with me on this,
Sure.
because there is a part that is still like, can't we all just get along and let them live and let live, right? And then as soon as I say that, I say, and remember, kill or be killed.
Yeah, that's
Right?
yeah,
It's like,
yeah, 100%.
okay, so I'm gonna leave it to you. I said a lot. I'm trying to understand this. I don't have a specific. I have lots of questions. I don't know how
Sure.
to distill it.
Okay, well, let's start with, truth and objective and subjective. So, of course, we are living in a shared reality, right? It's an objective reality that we are all co creating in, we are all living in. Yet we have our individual perception, which is the subjective component to that, right? So,
But I don't know that that's the case. I think that most. I mean, when I look around, or when I was out traveling in this country the last month, and seeing and having conversations, you said shared reality. Okay, we're in this shared reality, and it's like, can't you see what's going on? It's pretty
that's the thing
objective.
about the subjective, that's perception.
But wait a minute, it's not. It's pretty objective. It's like right there. Can't you see? Can like look in the mirror? Like, you see, there's a direct correlation. What's missing here? Type of thing, right? I mean, even for myself, because I'm hyper aware of that. But what's so where's the subjective objective? No, that's not subjective. It's freaking objective, folks. It's like we can paint, we can connect the dots and see. That's it's like you can't lie about that. Yeah, how are we lying about this? How are we like pretending? Are we all just walking through with our carts, like pretending and just putting that crap in your cart? Like, I mean, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, most people are, for sure. The condition of this planet is objective. You have a more accurate, a more aligned to the objective truth perception, worldview. How you see and view the world, how you perceive the world is more in line to the objective truth of what is going on. The majority of people do not. Right? So they're
How
telling
are we going to
themselves
handle this?
stories, they're making justifications, they hold incorrect information and knowledge, they hold beliefs that are condoning the violence and slavery, right? So the subjective component is our perception itself, and that is the information that we hold within ourselves. And this is the whole point of the one great work, right? Is to convey this aspect of people have incorrect information. Here is the correct information, and here and why.
And now we've come full circle. Okay,
Correct.
so there it is. All right, I get it. Um, why do you think so many resist the truth? Resist. So natural law, we know it's karma. Not whatever you want to call it. It's natural law. We get it. It's innate in you. But why do so many resist?
Great question. I would say some of the majority, the main attributes is fear, obviously fear itself, and cowardice, right? Humans have been domesticated to humans have been bred to be obedient, disempowered slaves. This is what generational mind control is. So when you try to convey the truth to someone and they shut down, they refuse to hear it, right? You're giving them a taste of reality, how it really is. It's like the movie in the Matrix, right? Where, I mean, even Cypher wanted to plug back in because he was choosing that type of life, right? Because he was in fear, he was a coward. So most people, that's what it is. It's fear and cowardice. I think a lot of people, because there's so much distraction and there's so much static information, quite frankly, there's not enough people talking about this type of information. They are completely oblivious to what is going on in the world. They take life how it is within their own bubble, right? So they're just like, what? Genocide? What's going on? The slavery of humanity? Well, I live in, suburbia heaven where everyone is, nice or whatever it may be, right? They want to stay in their comfort zone. And anything that threatens that, they want to shut out. They have calcified their heart. They have dumbed down their mental faculties and capacity, right? And it takes, for some people, it's going to take an extreme amount of suffering to get out of that. Some other people are more pliable, which they just need to come across information that will get them thinking. It will spark them on a path of self-realization. So it's really the whole spectrum and the whole gambit. So this is where the quantum shift comes into play with numbers. As more people talk about objective morality and natural law, they activate, they do the one great work, then we will start to see a shift in people's perception and perspectives.
Okay. What's the 10,000 number, and is that even relevant?
10,000, meaning that you need 10,000 people to create a change. Is that what that is in context to?
Yeah.
It's
just arbitrary.
There's, what is there, 7 billion people, 7.8 billion people on this planet.
We don't actually know if that's true.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
But okay.
For
All right.
sure.
So I get it. So we have to get momentum. No question. But we start with ourselves, then we start with our rings, then our relationships. And what you said, I hope there's that one spot where you said humans have been domesticated, they've been bred
Correct.
to this mind. That needs, like, let's pull that out, and that needs to be a meme everywhere. It's like,
yep,
so
absolutely good. Neutered, declawed, defanged. I mean, just look at, you can even just look at the nation states, the countries around the world that have had their natural right of self-defense completely violated, where they can't, bear arms to, a large capacity that they should have. And that's aside from all the programming and conditioning and the eugenics and the epigenetics that is going on, even within the gender, male and female, across the board. There's a lot of mind control, but the strength in numbers, meaning we are having this conversation right now. It's just two of us. But sure, there are people watching, and the people that watch, hereafter, we can influence those people, meaning that there is a reverberation that can happen. And there can be a spark where more people start to take in this information, they start to activate, and then it snowballs. And as that snowball happens, then of course, we're going to see the effect increase as more people come online and activate. So Ideally, we want to reach a majority. That's how we're going to absolutely change the condition on this planet. We need a majority. And I say that, and people, they think that's impossible. And that's here. Set your ego aside. That does not mean we're going to accomplish that in your lifetime or in my lifetime. That's not the point. The point is, what are you doing in the here and now? Doing it for truth and for what is right. That is the point. Because you are adding to the ether. You're adding that energy into the pot towards freedom, to end slavery. And, you're setting up opportunities to inspire people, not only within your lifetime, but in future generations as well.
Well said. Will you share your top 3 books that someone must read when when they're starting out. I know
Sure.
we'll do starting out, and then those that are for the folks that are in the audience. And now I'm going to go over to the questions here and just check and see what's going on over there. Share those.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say my top 3 books for someone that to try to shake someone out of their calcification about what is going on, right? I mean, we can go into different categories. I'd have a separate top 3 for that. But The End of All Evil by Jeremy Locke, The Most Dangerous Superstition by Larkin Rose, and I would say Right Makes Might by Richard Weatherall. Those 3 are fantastic. Of course, someone did transcribe Mark Passio's Natural Law Seminar into a PDF, which you could say that could be a book. It's an ebook. Of course, that would be number 1 in my list. So, which is available on the One Great Work Network. It's available. It's out there.
Okay, so that's a really good point. So if in the future, I think most of our audiences listened to Mark or has had the experience, but specifically his documentary on natural law. Which one is that?
Well, he has a documentary, which is Mark Passio and the Science of Natural Law. Mm-hmm. Fantastic to share because it's an hour and a half. It's a little bit shorter for people. He did an incredible job at putting that together. It's very real world, right? He even did a survey on the street with just normies. Right. Yeah. So that is a great one to share with people. And of course, the Natural Law Seminar, which is almost 9 hours.
Okay, that's a different one. Okay, yes, so the natural. Separate. Okay. Wow.
It really, when it comes to resources and directions where people should go.
Yeah.
This is why it's good to have kind of a versatile approach. If you ask me about metaphysics, I'm giving another top 3. If it's about, breaking someone out of the spell of the belief in human authority,
I want them.
Something different.
So let's do that. Let's do that right now.
It's good to know our demographic, our audience, who we are speaking to face to face. And you can do that by asking them a few questions, and then you can gauge to see kind of where they're at. Are they more new age? Are they analytical, scientific? And that can change what angle you kind of, your approach.
Okay, that makes total sense. Then I'm going to get those answers from you. And I'm going to go over here and just make sure I'm not missing any questions. This is from Jeffrey Phillips. How do we hold bad actors in our community accountable if the social hierarchy of the community is protecting them?
Oh, Jeffrey. So you want to police the people that are activating and taking action? I would say you would need to focus on yourself. Truth always prevails, and patterns speak volumes. If there is a bad actor in a community, discernment, logic, and reason will expose the bad actor indefinitely. People need to observe and judge actions of individuals, right? So if there is a bad actor, it would become obvious to people by what they talk about, how they act in the world, etc. So that's my answer to that guy.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Great to see the others in there. Don't see a specific. Great. At least you did the PDF. From Dennis. Awesome. That's great that Dennis did that. Okay. Let's do this then. Since truth always rises, I'm gonna ask. Well, I'll probably just finish with this, and then I'm gonna announce what we've been creating. I think. What would you say is probably the biggest lie that you wish everybody would stop telling themselves? You know what I mean?
Sure. Absolutely. And then real quick, the PDF of the natural law documentary, natural law seminar was done many years ago,
Okay.
shortly after Mark released that seminar by Michael Gleason. And you can get
Michael
to that.
Gleason. Oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
for sure. And Dennis Gilmore does a fantastic job at transcribing all different types of content. So,
Okay.
some of the top, well, first and foremost, that truth does not exist or truth is relative. That is the seed. I call it the seed, the larva of loathing is what I call that. Because if truth does not exist or it is relative, meaning it's based upon each individual's perception, right? Everything else falls down from there. That means there is no right or wrong. There is no truth or deception, right? It's reality is whatever each individual says it is, right? A man can be a woman, can be a dog, can be a cat, up is down is up. So that is full blown, full spectrum relativism, that truth is relative or truth does not exist, right? Even in philosophical communities, there's the quote that all I know is that I know nothing, right? Or this understand or this concept that you can't know anything. This is based upon relative truth, that there is no such thing as objective truth. That right there is the seed. So,
The poison.
oh, absolutely.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
where it
Yep.
stems from.
It's amazing. That is truly amazing because that I drank that poison and I led my life with that poison for 30 years. It's crazy,
Sure.
crazy to
Many
think that.
people are drinking from that poison fountain, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I thought I was so about like, oh, it's yeah.
That's right. And then, of course, from there, the belief in human authority,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
because from that belief right there, that's where you get religion and government and arbiters of morality and truth.
Yep. And then
So,
you're just giving up your power. I mean, you're just giving your power away because you've essentially assigned it. Here you go. Here you go.
correct.
Take it. And then you either go then I see now the whole order following. It took me a while really to understand Passio's work, the order following that whole cycle. And I think um, yeah, I'll stand by this. No matter how many, I've had multiple folks say, I don't agree with Passio. I don't like his work or whatever. Like, no, I stand by that. That's the number one. To this day, um, his work has helped me personally, uh, as a mom, as a woman, as a human, more than anything else I've ever done. And I have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on religions, on coaching, on this, on getting my master's in this, getting this and this, so that I could have some knowledge. And by far, the work that Passio has put out, specifically, I will say with and I've only gotten to about 80 on the podcasts fully of learning them, but then the natural law, the seminars, a couple of other seminars, very valuable. And the thing that I do want to say is that because he does not charge for his work, he doesn't charge. I think if he does like his technical things, he charges for that. But he is doing this work and giving it, and I think that um, I'm so grateful. But uh, what was I going to say? I wanted to bring up what you said before because before we started recording, because I feel. Based on what you've said, based on what the feedback I have gotten, is that we need a community. We need a consistent community to rise, to let this truth rise within us, and to go through the painful experience. And sometimes incredibly pleasurable. I mean, this is like an emotional journey for me, but then also it's like, okay, I'm processing this. It takes me a couple days to process what you've shared. And um, I wanted to create a community where folks could come together. Um, Ethical, kind, moral people are coming together to meet twice a month. That's what I think would be nourishing to work through this evolution together. Definitely as a parent, um, working through those pieces in our relationships and do it in a way completely from a place of truth, aligned truth, and everything we've been talking about with Will. I think what Will stands for, probably what Mark stands for, but to have a community that's safe. And when I say safe, I don't mean it's bashing or whatever. I mean it's a place where we're doing the work together, not maybe your great work because that you should do that, but a community to be able to process and digest and dialogue and balance out some of the information that comes to us that can get really imbalanced. And one of the things that Will was talking about, because I thought, well, I don't want it to be confiscatory. I don't want to charge maybe. And then I'm putting on a number. So $9 a month, where we meet twice a month. We will have a specific time, about 2.5 hours. Think of it more like office hours. There's not necessarily a specific agenda where you can bring your questions, you can bring the work that you're working on, and go through it with a process where I will facilitate and Will is a guest. Again, he is, because he has his own life and his own pieces, but he will also, he's so generous that he will be there and be part of this. So that's what I'm looking at doing. Specifically for us, those that are on this journey and that want to lead stronger, longer in this way. It has nothing to do with my work that I do with powerhouse leaders or my Yogalachi holistic body mind business transformation programs. It has nothing to do with those programs or what I do in my career and professionally. This is a specific personal endeavor to go through this experience. I know since August of 2024, I struggled deeply for about 5 months, went through the dark night of the soul type of thing, really having to unravel and was alone in it and didn't know how to unravel, didn't even realize what was going on within me until I started reaching out to some others who had gone through the work of Passio's work and basically confronting things that this is very common to go through that dark night and what are the tools. And I was given a lot of different tools. And then I went to the site and saw, resonated with a few people, like, for example, Scott's work, because we had a common thread, and then Will's work that he had as the seminar. So I'm going to put that out there. I will add that to the YouTube notes in the description. And then I have no doubt I will have Will back at some time for a live YouTube at some point when I just can't figure it out on my own. Clearly, Will Keller is incredibly intelligent, competent, knowledgeable, and experienced. He's gone through it. He's doing the work and does it regularly. So please make sure you're reaching out to him. Go to willkeller.com. Incredible body of knowledge that he has there, incredible resources. So see willkeller.com, and then all of his social media. He puts out such great social media. So make sure you're following him there. And anything else that you care to say, Will?
I think you did a fantastic job. I think what you're proposing with the community is important. People seek this. They seek the like-minded individuals to come to commune with. This is what a community is, right? To either as a support, as a guidance, whether that be tech to activate, create their own content, whatever it may be. We can look back even on like the scandemic era where the freedom cells became extremely popular, but there's not that many people that understand natural law and objective morality. So having these kind of communities where people can unite and inspire each other to act
Yeah.
in the world, I think that is the main component.
I
So
think it
it's
would be amazing.
fantastic.
And to have that as a root, have that as the as the soil and fertilizing the soil with that, what could sprout from that would be amazing, I bet. I mean, I could just even just some of the questions I see or the comments in the chats always inspires me. And so I think, "Oh, I want more of that. I want more of this." In fact, before we go, so I will just answer is it to Marcy. Yes, we'll make sure we get PDF, the list of books from Will. And
Cool.
then is Alicia asks, is blocking people a pattern, Will?
Um, Here's another one, Alicia. Sure, yeah. If you're gonna come into a space that we've created and you're gonna act a fool or an ass, absolutely, you can be blocked. So
Oh, okay. So
that's what.
are
Yeah,
they, are these, so I'm not super, I don't usually interact with
they're on
comments.
your channel, is what they're asking because I have them blocked because they don't
Oh,
make content, educational content on their own. They try to infiltrate other people and they want to police. They want to be statists within certain communities. So,
yeah.
and
What
that's a
is that
fact.
about? What is that about? What?
It's jealousy. It's incompetence on creating their own educational content and trying to inspire others. They focus on anyone that they choose and they want to break them down. They're embodying the energy of involution.
Mhm.
They have low teachability and cowards for sure, 100%. So that's what it is. And here's the thing, it's like I could block you on social media. The type of person that I am, I don't go back and forth on this artificial reality of social media platforms. I'm a face-to-face type of person. I am who I am in real life, eye to eye, and that's how I kind of handle things. So I don't engage
Awesome.
with trolls, with parasites. I don't allow my energy to be fed to them. And that's how I function. And if that hurts feelings, sorry, go to a different channel, go somewhere else.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
stop being a little baby. That's what I say.
Right on. Right on. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so there you go. I want to ask you about Dennis Gilmore because I had him on my podcast, and I know he does take a lot of. Um, in fact, he took some of our work and then did a riff off of it, and I was like, that's really interesting. I didn't get too much into it. I was like, I just gotta let that go. It didn't sit right with me. It didn't feel good, but I put myself out there publicly. It's public now. It's public feed, whatever.
Sure.
Um, so what is that? This is Dennis doing because I think I'm very naive when it comes to all of this, and I'm like, oh, just can't we get along? It's like, but I want to be strong. I want to be strong the way you just stated that. I need that. I need that piece that you just shared eloquently, like, these are my boundaries. It's like, I have certain boundaries within my own. I have, as a strong mama, I mean, I have boundaries, right? Certain things.
Sure.
And in my business, and I'm good with certain boundaries, but this is new territory for me. And
Absolutely.
so what would you recommend? Is like, is this a muscle I need to build? Is this a skill?
Yeah, it's, having tough skin. It's understanding that when you go public and you put yourself out there, there's going to be all types of people. They're going to take your image, they're going to take clips from you, they're going to do whatever they want. And that's, there's moral people and ethical people in the world, good people in the world, far and few between. There's also parasites and people that want to, pervert and twist your content as well. I don't think Dennis is doing that maliciously. I mean, he puts out other people's content and he gives his opinion on that and he transcribes, and that's totally fine.
Mhm.
I'm just the type of person, I know myself. I am grounded within myself. I'm an adult man, and when people do that to me, it fades me none,
Mhm.
right? It fades me none. And it's all about your energy and feeding off you. They want to get a reaction off you. They really want to be you. That's what they want. They want you to respond to them, and they want to feed off of that energy. And those people need to be ignored out of existence, and not supported whatsoever. And that takes discernment. And all you have to do, like I said earlier, is observe their patterns, observe what they do, the majority of the energy that they invest, what they stand for, and all that kind of stuff. And it shows their true colors. So,
So you wouldn't
but
take
that does take.
action. So when someone's harming, you wouldn't do anything there? No? Well, I guess blocking is some action that you're taking, but is
Sure,
there any other
absolutely.
action that we would do to say, "Hey, no, you're harming. This is not okay."
Well, it's in the public space. Of course, there's slander there, but I mean, you're putting yourself out there. People are going to do that. They're feeding off the emotional reaction that they're trying to entice.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, to look within themselves, what is your intention? Like, Alicia, what's your intention? I don't, it's rhetorical. It's for anyone. What's your intention? I mean, really think about this right now in this time and in this place. There is so much work to be done.
they don't do work. That's the
Go
thing. They
get your
take
work.
other people's content, and they talk shit. They are parasites. And the thing about it is, these people are known. People know how these people act and operate. It's only the people that don't know them that fall for it, right? That don't have that discernment. So again, it's all about pattern recognition, and block them on your platforms. I wouldn't let you come into my house and talk shit, right? There would be consequences to that. In the public domain and space, you block them, and you
Mhm.
continue to do what you are doing, and you do your work.
Yeah.
That's how it's done.
This is a key lesson for me right now because I did not do that. Even in my I would let people that are parasitic and snakes in my own house because I felt I had to, whether because of family or whatever, for a very long time. And I'm done with that. I'm done with that from a place of genuine kindness and genuine hope that you will shift and find your truth because truth always rises. And this is so crucial for you to get, for each of you to get. When I say you, anytime I'm saying it, there are three fingers pointing back at me, and I am doing the work as fast as I can. Maybe I'm a little late bloomer, but we have to. If I know nothing else, as I drove across this country this past month, oh my goodness, the cloud that is over this whole world and the walking zombies that are unhealthy and taking pills and pushing pills and passing them, thinking it's okay, here, let's just make that pain go away, instead of taking responsibility. Deeply, deeply, deeply sad to see. And that part of me was like, I just, oh, it's okay. No, no more.
That's right.
With
That's right.
genuine kindness and genuine love. So, all
And
right, thank you
even
so
Mark
much.
has talked a lot about this in the tech class, and this is why there needs to be a vetting pocket. Hold on one second.
That's a kitty cat. It's like,
Yeah,
save that cat. Oh my
hold on.
gosh. Go
I'm
save
sorry.
that cat.
The-
All right. Well, while he saves the cat, which is really important, we need our kitty cats to be saved. I will just say once again, I'm going to put that out there. I want to collaborate with genuinely folks that are willing and wanting to do the work, that are strong enough and smart enough to take the actions that require facing your truth. We talked about this on the last episode with Will, which is a really, really good one. I'd go back and listen to it. It's super good, specifically about burn the lies from the inside out. So important. Will, I'll let you finish what you were
Sorry.
saying, your
Yeah,
thought.
my window was open. It was actually cats outside.
Oh, okay.
So wasn't my cats. But
Oh, good.
just to finish up, this is why there's a vetting process and why it is important to
Okay.
vet certain people. So,
I'm going to start doing that. Um, you know, that is a part where I am ignorant, and I don't want to ignore. I know you said, okay, ignore that. So there is a useful tool for ignoring, but I don't want to be ignorant about certain things. It's more naive. It's more naive because I believe in the good in everyone. I truly do. I believe deep down everyone is good. But I do everything you just said with parenting and with the lies and the breeding in dumbing down and breeding in castration and all of that. It's like you said it all. You just described it all, and it's 14:44 here. I'm going to wrap. Thank you so much. I am forever grateful. You have impacted my life in such a positive way. I send you a gigantic energetic hug and appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you viewers who show up and are doing the work. Keep doing it. I'm here for you.